and welcome, beloved, to the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you are moving into living life on your own terms. There's so many things that are going on. You know, the protests are raging in earnest. And we're seeing many things kind of unfolding. And as much as people want to peg this to, a planned event, it may have been planned. It may have been orchestrated. But let me tell you, they did not plan for the kind of ancestral spirits, the spirits of war, the spirits of, all kinds of just energy that has been stirred up. That's something that they could not have planned for. And I think sometimes we give so much credit to the Illuminati or powers that be or whoever, globalists, whatever label you want to give to them. But they are not always as in control as you think. And, they may, because I keep seeing people saying all of this is planned. They just want this. In fact, I saw a recent video which was talking about how we're in a 0 year, and David Icke was talking about how they want to erase all the history and erase everything that had happened so everyone can start on a fresh plate. But I really believe that the spirit of the ancestors and the spirit of the Most High Black Creator, if I can say that, if there's a difference, is awake, and there's so much that it's redemption time, literally. And what we're seeing across the states, unprecedented, is, close to a dozen Confederate statues and flags have actually fallen across America. Some of the cities, Richmond, Virginia, Jacksonville, Florida, Indianapolis, and Indiana, quickly moved to remove Confederate statues and memorials. Some got court injunctions. And this has been something that has been debated for years, but a lot of these southern states refused to budge. And, I know some of them aren't southern, but the majority, whether Confederate, whatever's up. Anyway, let me not get carried away. And, black civil rights groups and historians had talked about how the statues were put in place to kind of keep reminding. It's like those slave movies, you know what I mean, that don't help anybody. It's just to keep reminding us of this fake, illusion of white supremacy, to keep reminding us of, the white supremacy over the black people, when that is just the biggest lie from the pit of hell. And I keep telling you, it was deeper than that, fam. And that's why whether people say this is planned or not, what is happening spiritually cannot be, spiritually you would not take down the statues of your ancestors who have given you dominion and proliferated your racist regime. You just wouldn't. You just wouldn't. And I'm telling you, the spiritually what is happening with all these altars coming down is absolutely huge. And 8 cities had removed or approved removal of Confederate monuments as of last Friday. And the most controversial has of course been of Robert E. Lee, who was a Confederate general or something like that. His statue in Richmond, massive statue, had been caught up in a legal battle. I think it had been approved to be taken down. Then someone went to court and had an injunction. But actually there were massive rallies over the weekend in front of the Robert Lee statue. And, of course, mainstream media was talking about how the protesters passed all these Confederate statues, but focused in on that one. And you can see it's probably the one, that altar has to come down. And that's what, when you look at these things from a spiritual lens, not from a New World Order lens or a physical lens, it is something extremely powerful. And I just want to encourage you, beloved, wherever you are, stay wise, stay awakened, stay calm, and really tune into the Most High, tune into your guardian angels, tune into your ancestors, because from here on out, things are going to get crazier, and the spirits that are kind of roaming the earth right now, especially the divided states. Really, you can catch yourself in a moment of anger and do something extremely stupid. Unfortunately, we've seen more black people. A young man who was killed hung from a tree in California. I'll definitely be doing a show on everything that's going on with that. And then another brother who was shot in front of the Wendy's. Of course, the Wendy's was totally blown up. Well, not blown up, but it was up in flames. But there's a spirit now. I keep saying that we're in a deep spiritual war, and now you're starting to see the physical manifestations of the spiritual war. There are agents of light and there are agents of darkness. And then there are just free agents out there who don't really know who they are, first of all, or what they're doing. And many are indoctrinated. So really be extremely conscious, extremely sensitive to the signs and the times, and don't allow yourself to become, an inconsequential agent, of the enemy. Stay uplifted and don't buy into their narrative, because something is underfoot, fam. And I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it. Life will never, ever be the same again. The ancients are back. A new system is taking over the earth. Tighten your seatbelts, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Tuko pamoja.
Wake up. Wake up, Africa, your time has come. Open up your eyes and see the sun. Open up your spirit. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Hello and welcome to Africa 101 on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. Now, Africa 101 is all about, the things we think we know about Africa, but we're totally wrong about, the myths, the lies, and kind of correcting some of the half-truths that we've been told. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, to the Dr. Mumbi Show. And thanks for the support and love. Now, today I want to talk about colonial power and really look at the face of colonial power, because I feel that we misunderstand kind of the nature of colonial power. So then it's easy for people to say, things like, oh, Africa should have been colonized for longer. Oh, it's colonial, it's 50 years since colonialism. Why are Africans still crying? And I want to show you really the different aspects of colonial power and why all of them are at play in Africa today. So basically, there are three forms of power when it comes to foreign relations. There's the hard power, the soft power, and the smart power. Now, hard power is more like military and economic power. It's where you get, basically power is taken from the indigenous community through guns, germs, and steel, like we saw with the colonialists. And I thought the best example of this are the British as well as the French. And that's why they have maintained this global network and global hegemony, because everywhere they colonized, they set up a military base. And what happened is, after independence, a lot of those military bases were left. Like here in Kenya, we have a huge military base in Laikipia, next to Mount Kenya, of the British Army. No one knows what goes in there. In fact, last year, for the first time in 50 years, the government of Kenya tried to stop a ship that was bringing in a special consignment for the British Army in Laikipia. When they were asked to search it, they declined, and they actually took the ship back with several tons of God knows what back to the UK. So that shows you that, this hard power is still what controls the world. And you'll see that the major powers in the world, it's mainly because of their military presence. Now, if you look at things like the permanent representatives of the United Nations, all of them have significant hard power. And you can see them right there, the UK, France, China, etc., USA. So when we go, hard power basically controls the world. Now we move to soft power. Now, soft power is what we saw post-independence, and it's what we've seen used by the US to kind of colonize the entire world. Because what has happened, if we look today, is that the entire world thinks like Americans, dresses like Americans, watches American movies, and even wants American American fast food. Like, a few weeks ago, the very first McDonald's was opened in Russia. And there were lines for days, even though the typical Big Mac meal, which is so unhealthy, is an average Russian's, like half their salary, or I think they said half their salary for a month, and for some even 3 months of their salary. But you can see how it's so powerful, how they've been able to spread their culture across the world and in a way control people. Another way that the USA exercises soft power, it's through education systems. A lot of presidents, a lot in developing countries, a lot of ministers in developing countries, a lot of decision makers, CEOs and innovators in developing countries and NGOs have actually had an Western education, a British education or an American education. Now, what has happened is that the USA used the mountain of media to really push their soft power. But the British, because like in Kenya, we speak their language, we dress like them, we have this, the elite go to British schools, etc. What we saw is they also had an element of soft power, but they beat it into us. Bam, bam, bam. Right. Now, finally, we have what we call smart power. And this is what we're seeing more and more employed in this day and age because, the whole world is kind of sensitive to the whole imperialist talk, to the whole colonial talk. So what you're seeing is that now there's a new way, should I call it neocolonialism? Agenda. And what we're seeing, this is primarily practiced by China, but we're seeing it more and more by countries in the West as well. And what a smart power is basically economic as well as adaptive. And what that means, we've seen it in China across the we've seen it from China across the continent, is that they'll give you money, they'll fund a lot of the infrastructure projects, although if you look at all the roads that China is funding, they're either coming, there's a joke that they come from either a copper mine, a diamond mine, an oil field. It's never just a random road. But what we're seeing is less interference, a Chinese policy that has less interference on the dictators of Africa, less interference on the corruption, because they're dealing with their own corruption. If you think about it, China in the 1980s was poorer than most African nations. But what we have to always realize is no colonial power is good. Hard, soft, or smart, it doesn't matter, because colonialism is basically the domination of one group of people over another group of people. So we never want any kind of colonial power over us.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.